Okay, so hi guys. Um I decided I'm gonna try out a new video. I am unmuted, so that's a good start, I suppose. I'm gonna try out just a really quick idea for videos. I'm thinking about because I'd never post here anymore, so I kind of thought maybe I like to read a lot and I go to the movies every once in a while, so I thought maybe I'll just share my views and thoughts on the stuff that I'm reading and watching. Not that anyone's in particular going to watch this or really care about my opinion, but it's just something for me to do, and that way I can look back on these videos and go, oh yeah, that's why I hated that, or oh yeah, that's why that was my favorite movie in existence, or whatever. So, and just, I guess that's it. So, if I don't end up getting committed to it, I don't really care either way. If I don't feel like it turned out the way that I wanted it to, I might just quit doing it. It's not anything I'm like heavily committed to. But I am just a college student doing my own thing, so yeah, it should never be expected for me to actually make something of this. But I like to mess around while I'm bored. And so yeah, my first video, I decided I would talk about the movie 5 Feet Apart because I literally watched it yesterday with my mother. So I thought that would be a good place to start. Good, refreshing, new kind of movie to watch because first off, it's about CFers. It's a disease that a lot of people kind of know about, but they don't know a lot about. For me personally, I had a little background because I watched a girl named Claire who had her own YouTube channel, and she talked about it a lot. And she actually helped create the movie and make sure that it was representing the disease accurately, or at least slightly accurately. So, and unfortunately, she passed away. So I don't know if she actually got to see the movie all the way through, or if she was able to see it before it released fully in theaters. But I have a lot of different thoughts on it in general. I'm a very critical person on romance movies in general. So when I see a romance movie, I automatically think it's going to be terrible because I just hate how romance movies work. It's just too cheesy. They fall in love and it's either a perfect ending or it's a terribly tragic star-crossed lovers kind of ending. So I'm just not really a big fan of those kind of movies. But this one was a little different just because it kind of had the Fault in Our Stars kind of vibe. So I was interested to say the least, mainly because of Claire and her story. But I thought I'd give it a try and at least go and see it because my mom she's very much into romance movies. So she was like, oh, we have to go see it. So we went and we did. I think my first thoughts, and I will give a disclaimer right now, I am going to be talking a little bit about the plot. Maybe more, I don't really know. I don't have a huge layout of what I'm going to say for this. So I might spoil the whole movie. I'm not 100% sure. But basically, the gist that you get right away is that the main character, Stella, she has severe control issues and you don't really understand why. And it comes off in a really strange way where it almost seems borderline like psychotic because she sets up her room, she talks with her friends and stuff about they're planning on a vacation or something. And as she goes to the NICU because she's close friends with a nurse who, and this is definitely a HIPAA violation. My mom's a nurse, so she pointed out all the hospital errors that you could never, ever, ever do. But she is friends with a nurse, and they went down to the NICU to look at the babies. And as she's passing the boy's room, he has some friends in there or something, and they have like this 3-second glance. And then he follows her all the way across the hospital to the NICU. And they just kind of start talking. And it's very strange because it starts out where he's obviously that stereotypical character in a romance movie where I don't follow the rules because we only have so much time in our lives, and it's especially so because of the CFers having the debilitating disease. So he just kind of exemplifies that even more. And she's very much, I follow the rules because I live for following the rules. And it's just very obvious that their personalities clash. And it starts with him being nice and talking to her, and her being very cold-shouldery to him because his friend said something in the 30 seconds of her passing his room that made her automatically assume he's like a terrible person, I guess. So she didn't like him. To the point where he asked her what her name was, and when she didn't respond, he assumed she was deaf. And then at the end of the conversation, he asks her what her name is, and she says, no, my name's Deaf, because she didn't want to tell him her name. That's how much she disliked him. And she made it very clear in that conversation. Also, another HIPAA violation. The nurse 100% gave away both of their names to each other, because she's like, oh, hi, Will. And she's like, oh, so your name is Will. And then at the end, right after he asked her name, and she said her name was Deaf, the nurse was like, oh, Stella, you have to go do this for whatever reason. It was just a way to give him her name, which is such a violation of privacy. My boyfriend changed it to that. I want it on the grappling hook. So there's all of that. But, so they introduce themselves, and it comes off almost as psychotic, her control issues, because she finds out right away he doesn't like to follow the rules. And in spite of the fact she's made it very clear she doesn't like him, she doesn't even want to tell him her name, she then follows him back to his room and demands that he starts following his treatment procedures because, quote, it bothers her. Which just, it seems weird. Like, I get it, but I kind of don't get it. I don't know if it's she just cares about life in general, and it was supposed to be played off as she's like, she has a good heart, she doesn't want him to die, even if she doesn't like him, she just doesn't want him to die. But it just came off as this weird, like, she already liked him, and it literally was 30 seconds after they met where she's like telling him like to do his treatment. It just came off very weird and very possessive and clingy, and I just didn't understand that. And I would also, and of course everyone's different, but she comes off as very, very closed and private as a person. So I find it very strange that she would just magically connect intimately with this random guy she met 30 seconds ago, just because, you know, they have the same debilitating disease. And there are other people in the unit. It's not like she hasn't met other CFers before. One of her best friends is in the hospital with her at the same time, coincidentally, who happens to be, I don't even know what his real name is, poor guy. I'm just always going to remember him as Rico from Hannah Montana. He was a very good actor in this movie, by the way. But, it just comes off weird, all of that immediate interest and fascination with him from her side. And, there's a lot of things in the story, like, they start the whole movie with this very melodramatic narration about human touch and how important that it is to experience it, how much every person needs it, which I totally agree with, and I think it was very beautifully written. But they also closed the movie with the exact same melodramatic speech. So I understand what it was doing, and I'm sure there's many people who totally appreciated it. But for me personally, I just wasn't that interested in it. I felt like it was just not at all. It was just very, it was trying really hard. And the entire movie, it's lasting over the span of 1 month. And they end up going on 3 dates before the end of the movie. Like, that's it. And that's only if you count, the very last time that they're together, which is where she gets ticked off because something really difficult happens for her. She has a lot of issues with loss because of her troubled past. Because, you know, every romantic, not comedy, but every romance movie where there's a girl who has all these strict rules, it's because she had a troubled past. So something happens and it triggers all of that issues that she has with that. So she gets mad and she wants to take off. So he goes with her. So if you count that, that would be their third date out of a month of knowing each other. And it ends with them basically saying how much they love each other and all of this other stuff. Which is fine, I suppose. Me and my boyfriend basically knew right away that we loved each other when we got together. But we'd also been best friends for about 6 months. So I don't really know that I could connect with it. I don't see it as a love story. I see it more as like a summer romance. Like, you can say you love someone, but it doesn't mean you necessarily truly love them. It's more like a passion of the moment thing. And that's just kind of how it is for me. Like, I couldn't just magically fall in love with someone in less than a month after literally only going on 3 dates with them. There is the fact, though, they did spend almost every day together, to be fair, because they did their treatments together, because she wanted to make sure that she was in control of his CF as best as she could be, because she knew without her supervision he wouldn't go along with it. So they did spend a lot of time together, but they were only romantically involved the 3rd or maybe 4th week of knowing each other. So it just seems hard to believe for me personally that they were really in love versus just the teen romance kind of thing. There's a lot of the hospital. That was another really kind of annoying factor of the whole thing, is the hospital was super duper like fancy. Like, they went on their dates and there was a giant pool that they could go to. They went to it at like the middle of the night, unsupervised, and there's like a little romantic thing there. And there was a giant hallway that had a bunch of aquariums all throughout it that they were looking at on their romantic first date. Which I don't know why you would have that many aquariums in a hospital to begin with, whether therapy related or not. It just doesn't seem realistic. Oh, we got a bunch of people over here. But yeah, so they had that. They had a lot of these really fancy things. So, and I'm not saying there aren't nice hostels. I know that there are. It just seems very unrealistic to have that many nice things. And there is a point in the movie where they have a private dinner with like a bunch of their friends in the cafeteria after it closed. And the food was cooked by one of their fellow CF friend patients, which makes even less sense to me. Because, first off, how would they have gotten in the cafeteria if it's closed? Like, it would have been locked. There would have been staff supervising. I find it hard to believe that there's no way they would have noticed. Like, there's no alarms, there's no cameras, there's no keeping track of 3 patients. And they seem like the only 3 CF patients in the whole building from what we saw. Like, they didn't show anyone else, they didn't talk about anyone else. So it just seems very hard to believe that no one noticed that the only 3 CF patients that they have were not in their rooms at all, and that no one noticed the cafeteria had been opened, and that they had candles and champagne. And even if they happen, I don't think a hospital would have champagne. They certainly would not have candles. I don't know why they would have candles. It doesn't make sense. And, what was I thinking? What were my thoughts? I don't remember. But, it was still really good. Oh, that was another thing. There's a lot of parts of the movie that are very easily foreshadowed. Like, you know it's probably going to happen later. For example, one of their friends there's an incident where he sits on his call bell, and you're like, everyone gets scared and they like run to his room because they think that he's hurt. But it was just like, oh, he accidentally sat on it, he's fine. And it was a very clear sign that something was going to happen later and he was going to get hurt. And eventually he did get hurt. Like, it was very obvious. There's the narration, which started at the beginning and then it happened again in the end. There is a part of the movie where it looks like when they run off by themselves because she's upset about some drama that happened, they go on to a frozen lake, and it looks apparent that it's frozen solid, and then the ice breaks. I'm not going to say exactly what happened, but the ice does break, and it's just very apparent that it's probably going to happen. There's a lot of predictability in the movie. It was nicer than The Fault in Our Stars, I would say, but at the same time it seems almost like the exact same ending, but without the finality of it, because in The Fault of Our Stars, Augustus is dead. Like, there's no denying he's dead, he's not coming back, there's nothing they can do to change that. In this movie, they don't exactly break up, but they basically break up because he leaves. He goes to a different hospital, or he goes home. I don't really know what he did, but we don't 100% know what happens. They could still be talking, they could still be friends, even if they aren't right away. Maybe in a week or two he'll end up calling her, you know. And we know his treatment isn't working, but there's millions, okay, there's not millions, but there's tons of different kinds of treatment, so it's not impossible that he could find a treatment that would work. And although he was 18, it's been mentioned a couple of times that his family's pretty rich, so I'm dying out here. But it's been mentioned a couple of times that his family's very rich. So it's not improbable that he could try a lot of different things. There we go. I think the most important things about the movie, for me, and probably for a lot of actual, like, CF patients that were anticipating this movie's release, was not actually about the love story itself. I think it was really just about representing CF, and I think they did an okay job on that. I wouldn't say it was the best. There were a couple of times where it really did not make sense. Like, she really quickly ran up a set of stairs. They walked up a hill really fast, and it was like the middle of winter and they're walking up this steep hill. They're taking like a 2-mile hike. There's a lot of things that were kind of not 100% properly representative, but there were a lot of things that were good. They had a lot of the mindset. They did a lot of the treatments that you can actually do. They showed all of that. They showed forgive me, I don't know the proper terms, but the plugs that you have in your body, like up on your chest and by your stomach, to help you eat, and all of those fun medications. And they really did a good job, I would say, of showing that from what I have seen. I've watched a couple of CF patients properly review it themselves, and they have said, so from what I've seen, they've said that it's pretty accurate to what their daily lives are like. Ooh, that's cool. So, going off of their word, it's fairly accurate in those aspects, which is always good to know, because it's very easy for Hollywood to glorify anything, literally anything. That was the one thing I didn't like. There was a part where she removes her dress and shows him, like, her in her underwear, and I just kind of, I don't know, like, I get it, and it was they had little to work with. This is supposed to be a romance movie where they literally cannot touch, which they do cheat, by the way. But so I understand them kind of having to work with what they got, but it just seems very unrealistic. All of that stuff. I don't get why. I feel like it was unnecessary. We already knew they liked each other. I thought it was adorable the way that it was before she took off her dress, because they had a divider making sure that they were staying 5 feet apart. And they were like, it was almost like they were holding hands. One of them had a hand on each end of the stick. So I thought that was cute in itself. And then she's like taking her dress off and like rubbing the stick on her shoulder sensually, and it was just really awkward and uncomfortable for me. But that also comes from a person who was ace for like 3 years and is now demisexual. So I'm just not into that kind of stuff the way I guess normal people would be. But it was just a little bit uncomfortable for me, and I just felt like they were taking anything that they could and fetishizing it. But not to say that CF patients don't have sex, because I know that there's many who do or can or have, but you know, it's just, the point is I feel like they're just kind of trying to grab at straws there and make it as sexy as they possibly could while still following the 5 feet apart rule. And I didn't feel like it was necessary. I think we all understood they had that connection, they wanted to be together, and that she wanted to be vulnerable with him. But anyways, it's been 20 minutes, so I'll wrap this up and close out the video with, I guess I'll rate it out of 10. And I've thought about this a lot. And it comes down to judging on how accurate I feel like it was a representation of CF, which I think it did very okay. Other than, like I said, there's a lot of running around and inaccurate athleticism in some parts. But other than that, like the medication and all of the procedures, talking about like financial burdens from when you turn 18 and stuff like that, it really helps you get into the mindset of what it is like to have CF, what it's like to know someone with CF. And I think that as a purpose itself was wonderfully achieved in this movie. And if that were even the main goal alone, it definitely passed with flying colors. As a romance movie itself, I didn't really enjoy it. I didn't feel like it was a plausible plot. I just feel like it all happened in way too short of a timeline. I mean, it was only a month, and now they're madly in love. I just don't see that happening based on her character and based on his character. It just seems very unlikely, but you never know. And also, I have a tendency to highly dislike romance, so I'm biased. There you go. Overall, would I recommend it to a friend? I definitely would. I would encourage a lot of people to see it, because I think it's really important, because it shows a lot about CF. And it is very it's entertaining. Like, I wasn't disappointed that I saw it at all. It was a very good movie. Would I watch it again as the final part of the rating? Probably not, other than for my boyfriend, because he happens to love romance movies. But I personally would not love to sit down and watch this 2-hour movie again. So with all of that in mind, I would probably give it about a 7. I would say about a 7. I'll be generous. I'll give it a 7 out of 10. Because it was overall good, and it did really good representation of CF. And I really did like the way that they directed it. I think the directing was really good as well. So, I guess that... I'm never going to open that one, so I'll give up on that. I guess that's all that I'll talk about for now, and I'm almost finished with a book, so maybe in a couple of days I will share my thoughts on that. if anyone watches this, let me know if you liked it or hated it. I mean, I guess you really can't because this is a live stream, but join next time, I guess. Be there, be square. So, okay.